Welcome, family, to Series 3. We are so excited that you are back with us. Today, we begin our third series called Old School. So, how many of you have had the opportunity to talk to people that are older than you? And when I say older, I mean much, much older. I'm talking 15, 20, 30 years older than you. One thing that you will notice is that a lot of times when you begin a conversation or you have a conversation, a lot of times they'll start their conversation this way. Well, when I was your age, I used to do this. When I was younger, I used to do this. It's a lot of when I was younger, when I was your age, and things like that. I will be honest, when I was younger, that used to actually bother me a little bit because I felt like it was always a comparison of, well, we used to do things this way, used to do things that way, so on and so forth. But as I've gotten older, I've actually grown to appreciate that. I actually enjoy when I'm talking to people and they share with me their experiences of when they were younger, their experiences of when they were my age, what they used to do around my time, because you can learn a lot about who they are, what their background is, and just learn a lot and be able to identify yourself with them. Now, if you come from a family that is very similar to mine, you'll notice that the line of Christians dates way back. Myself, I'm a Christian. My parents are Christians. My grandparents are Christians. My great grandparents are Christians, and there it goes on and so forth. So I come from a line of believers, of people who believed and lived a life for Christ. But it was always interesting when we would get together for family reunions or things like that because you would have my grandparents there, my parents, and myself. And we would have conversations, and a lot of times you would hear my grandparents talk about when they were younger. You would hear them talk about the church culture when they were younger, the church culture when they were my age, how they used to do this, how they used to do that. But then you talk to my parents, and then they would tell you how church culture was in their time and what they used to do when they were my age and stuff like that. And then you talk to me, and I'll tell you, you know what? When I was actually now, I tell you now, this is what we're doing now. This is what things are going on now, and this is culture now. And that was all good because it's just you see the differences. My grandparents would tell you what church was like in the 70s and the 80s. My parents would tell you what church it was like in the 90s and early 2000s. I'll tell you what church is like right now in 2022. And it was always cool because you would hear that. And sometimes I remember having these conversations and being like, I couldn't believe it. I would talk to them and be like, what, you guys used to sing what songs now? Songs that I don't even know. And I'd be like, wow, I mean, I don't know what those songs are. Or they'd be like, yeah, we'd go to church every day, Monday through Sunday. Like, what? Yeah, services were like 4 hours long. What? And I'm like, things have changed so much. And one of the biggest mistakes that we can make as a younger generation is hear all of those things that our grandparents used to do, things that our parents used to do, and consider them old school. Old school in the sense of like, those were back in the day. They don't really apply anymore. They're not as relevant. They're not as important. So I'm not going to pay much attention to it. And we can commit a big mistake because there are certain things that our grandparents did. There are certain things that our parents did that made them effective Christians, that made them powerful Christians. And there are things that they did that, are actually still applicable to us. There are still things that they used to do that we can do that are going to make us solid and strong Christians. One of the comments that I've heard a lot over my lifetime is, books are usually updated. There's revisions to books. Because there's books and revisions occur to those books, the Bible needs to be updated. But that is one of the biggest mistakes that we can make or say that the Bible needs to be updated. Because see, the Bible is relevant in every single time in history. The Bible was relevant 100 years ago. The Bible is relevant today, and the Bible is going to be relevant 100 years from now. The Bible is never irrelevant. The Bible is always relevant. And the Bible is full of principles and is full of applications that will never go out of style. And even the oldest book in the Bible, we can still find things to apply to our lives in our daily lives today, tomorrow, and forever. When we begin to look at the Bible, the oldest book in our canon is the book of Job. It is the oldest book in our Bible. But even in this oldest book, we can still learn a lot. Now, to put it in a perspective for you, How old is the book of Job? Now, the exact time frame or the exact time when the book was written is a little uncertain. But the language that it uses, the expressions that are used in the book of Job, pretty much date it back to the 1900s before Christ. So 1900 before Christ. And so you can understand, and so I can put it in a bit of a perspective for you. So in the year 2166 before Christ is when Abraham was born. Abraham is a pillar of our faith. He is a man of faith. He is a man that is very important in the Christian community and in the Christian faith. So we have Abraham, born 2166 before Christ. Then we have Jacob and Esau that were born in the year 2006 before Christ. Then we have Moses that was born in the 1500s before Christ. Then we have the Exodus from Egypt, the Israelites when they came out of Egypt, which was in about the 1400s before Christ. So between the birth of Jacob and Esau in 2006 before Christ and the birth of Moses in the 1500s, we have the book of Job that was written in 1900s before Christ. Now this is a little maybe difficult to sometimes understand because in our Bibles, the first book is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And we see Moses there, we see Jacob and Esau there, we see Abraham there. But looking at when things were written, Job is the oldest book in our Bible. When you see it, it was actually written about 4,000 years ago. From where we are now, about 4,000 years ago. You look at a map of the world 4,000 years ago, you're going to see how the world has completely changed, how things have completely changed and evolved. But even though this book is 4,000 years old, in the book, we learned some things from Job that we can apply. In this book, we see God manifest in a powerful way that we can see him manifest now in today's day. So who was Job? I've told you about when the book was written, but who is Job? We can find that in Job chapter 1, verses 1 and 3. So it says this: there was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. And that man was blameless and upright and one who feared God and shunned evil. And had 7 sons and 3 daughters that were born to him. Also his possessions were 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and a very large household, so that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East. That's interesting. Job was the richest man. He's one of the greatest of all of the people of the East, the Bible says. He had cattle. He had ox. He had everything. He had money. He was very wealthy. But what calls my attention is not as much his wealth, as much as it is his character. Because look, it says that the man was blameless and upright and was one who feared God and shunned evil. See, when this is powerful about the life of Job. He was an upright man who feared the Lord and shunned evil. Now we begin to think about righteous men. Job is actually in the list of righteous men. If you go to Ezekiel chapter 14, verse 14, you're going to see that Job has a place of honor amongst Noah and Daniel as a righteous man. So this man is a righteous man who feared God, who loved the Lord, who shunned evil. But this is only the first chapter of the book of Job. We see who Job is, but then there is 42 chapters in the whole book of Job where we see how Job's life just takes a turn, and throughout all of it, he continues loving the Lord and fearing the Lord. But there is still a full book of things that are just going on in this man's life. And what we want to do over the next few weeks is that we want to explore the oldest book of the Bible and see certain aspects of Job's life and certain things that he did that are not old school. Just because the book was written over 4,000 years ago does not mean we discard it. It does not mean it's irrelevant. So what we want to do is we want to look at this book and learn from it and see what things we can apply to ourselves today. So I encourage you. Today was just a short introduction of who Job is. But over the next few weeks, we want to dive into the book of Job. So don't forget that every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, we will be diving into the book of Job. So we'll see you next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. God bless you.